Assalamu alaikum, hello, and welcome to FEMYSO's very first virtual Eid reception in collaboration with our partners, ARDI, European Forum of Muslim Women, and CCIB. We would like to start by wishing everyone a very big Eid Mubarak. There are two Eids in the year, and the first one is called Idul Fitri. This comes every year after the month of Ramadan, in which Muslims are fasting from sunrise to sunset. However, the main idea of the month is not only to stay away from food, but rather to appreciate the other virtues learned from it. These are love, peace, kindness, sharing, generosity, and other such traits, which we aim to use as guidelines until the next Ramadan comes along. Community is a very big part of this beautiful month. However, this year, due to the COVID-19 situation, plans had to change slightly. However, this was a very unique experience for all. Throughout the past few weeks, FEMYSO has organized several virtual meetings and gatherings to make this community feeling and the act of giving easier for youth all over Europe who have had to spend it differently. This was done through FEMYSO's Ramadan Blossom campaign, an online auction event, reflection sessions, and much more. For those of you who are new to FEMYSO, FEMYSO is the Forum of European Muslim Youth and Students Organization, and it is recognized as the voice of Muslim youth in Europe and is regularly consulted on issues pertaining to Muslim youth by institutions, civil society, but most importantly, by our 33 member organizations in 20 European countries. Our aim is to advocate on behalf and support the development of European Muslim youth, and FEMYSO has carried out this task faithfully since its inception in 1996. Our aim is to be an exemplary European institution, bringing together Muslim youth to network and exchange ideas, developing them through trainings and expert support to achieve their full potential, working closely with its member organizations as well as partners, to build a Europe for all, both locally and on a pan-European level. FEMYSO thus strives to be the leading voice for European Muslim youth, developing and empowering them, and working to build a diverse, cohesive, and vibrant Europe. We are organizing this event in a similar spirit to allow our partners and institutional stakeholders to share their messages of solidarity and celebrate this vibrant occasion together with us. This event is being held in partnership with the European Parliament's Anti-Racism and Diversity Intergroup, ARDI, the European Forum of Muslim Women, and the Collectif Contre l'Islamophobie en Belgique, all of which have representatives on this session who you will hear from shortly. To open up this virtual reception, we will start by calling on screen Akikul Haq, a member and former vice president of one of our member organizations, who will be reciting a few verses from the Holy Quran, followed by a translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأت بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله يحب كل مختال فخور واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير. We begin with the Fatiha, the surah that we all start off with all of our prayers. This is to glorify God and to ask for His guidance and assistance. And then I went on to recite from the pages of Surah Luqman. Here, God gave wisdom to our Prophet Luqman, of which he then passed advice onto his son, of which God talks about in the Quran. Here in these verses, Allah, He talks about being good to people. He talks about mothers. He talks about how we should be respectful to our mothers and we should be dutiful to our mothers and give thanks to them, for they bore us, for they raised us, and they nurtured us. He also talks, Allah Jalla wa Ala, He talks about being good to people, to be kind to people, to be humble around people, and not to be arrogant, and not to be boastful. And I think these are very important lessons, because as human beings, we strive to be better. We strive to be better as leaders. We strive to be better as activists. And when we promote morals of justice, equality, and diversity, we want to show people that we are just like them, trying to support them, trying to better our communities as a collective, as an equal. And I think these are lessons that we can take from these verses. And I hope that you have all benefited from this short excerpt from the Quran. Barakallahu feek.
Thank you very much, Akik. So we will now start the reception, and our first speaker we would like to introduce today is Samira Rafaela. She's a member of the European Parliament and a Dutch politician of the Democrat 66 political party. She has been serving as the member of European Parliament since 2019. Samira serves as the co-president of the European Parliament's Anti-Racism and Diversity Intergroup. It is truly great to have Samira with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a very special occasion, of course, to do it like this. As we know, the blessed month of Ramadan is about reflection and thinking of others, giving and a time to be with our families and communities. But this year, Ramadan and Eid looked and felt very different for many. It was taking place in lockdown through a global pandemic, and these are the times where we all expect to adapt and to do the best with the situation at hand. I grew up with Ramadan myself. I know very well how we should start the Ramadan and how we should celebrate Ramadan. So also for me, this was really special, and of course also very, very sad that we needed to close it like this. But it is heartwarming to see, however, that many people have volunteered to provide protective equipment, food, and other basic needs. And that is also what Ramadan was about and is about always, how to help other human beings. And I think during this time, we even did that more, and we were more conscious and aware of how necessary it is that we help each other in daily life. So even tough houses of worship shut their doors to obey social distancing guidelines in the times of the coronavirus. Different groups needed, therefore, to be connected with people online. Vulnerable people couldn't have a safe shelter, and that's still going on. And we also see for other groups in society that they needed to celebrate their special days and traditions in another way. The Jewish Passover, the Christian Easter, and of course Ramadan. They were all celebrated with online interactions and virtual gatherings. So I would say that let us be grateful also for all our privileges that we have, and including the technology that made it still possible to talk to our families, to check in with our parents, to connect and link with our communities. And we can adapt, but still, unfortunately, in a digital way, support our families and communities in new ways. I'm very happy that as MEP and member of the ARDI, I have been invited to participate in this event and to support also in my own way. As you know, I said it from the beginning, that as the co-president of ARDI and a member of the European Parliament, I stand for fundamental rights. I also stand for you to maintain the fundamental rights and for you to be safe in our society. And one way is that I can use my platform in the European Parliament for the matters that can influence how we enjoy our rights and your rights. So the COVID-19 pandemic and the government's response to it is having a far-reaching impact on our human rights, unfortunately. And on this, I would like to reflect and exchange also the views with you during this event, because I think it's very important. And I think that in a way you are dealing differently with that topic. And I'm very willing also to hear from you what the obstacles and the changes are for you. So as we all know, Islamophobia in Europe and across the world has showed so explicitly. And from the beginning in the European Parliament, I said that is going to be a form of discrimination that I will fight against. And having a Muslim background myself, growing up with the Muslim traditions, I can totally imagine what it does to be discriminated because of your religious background. And I also want to emphasize that Islamophobia has also different and maybe sometimes more of an impact also on women, Muslim women in society. And I think it's very important to emphasize that. And I also want you to know that I will bring in that different perspective. So Islamophobia, we see it manifested being online, we see it manifested being offline, mostly in scapegoating, blaming Muslims. We have seen even that Muslims being blamed for the virus. We see all forms of racism, xenophobia increased across the EU and beyond. And in your country, in England, in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France, you name it, I heard a lot of people also complaining about having an Afro-Caribbean background, being more at risk. And there has been so much examples now of people with having different backgrounds and being discriminated because of that. So we hear a lot of disproportionate numbers of people with having a different background and being discriminated right now during the corona crisis even more. And it's very important that we are going to research that and that we investigate that, and that the authorities also step up their game to protect the fundamental rights of people. We must all come together and jointly step up in combating the hate that we see through dialogue, that we see through education. And I think it's very important that also we as a new generation growing up in Europe, having these different backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, that we work on this together and that we step up our game, but that we also realize that we need to participate in the institutions and the politics ourselves to make sure that we make relevant legislation. And I would like to invite everyone who is thinking about a career or steps in this kind of environment to do that, because still nowadays we lack diversity in our institutions, and it doesn't make it any easier then to make the relevant and the very necessary legislation. So I think Europe's strength is in its vibrant, diverse communities, and that is something that we need to celebrate. And that is something that I'm always very proud of when closing with the Ramadan tradition, because you do see that not only people with Muslim background, but also people with other kinds of backgrounds are being attracted and inspired by the tradition. And we can use also traditions in Europe to bring people together and to connect with different communities. But we should also team up, and we should also form a community together, I think a new coalition in Europe, to make sure that we work towards new rules and regulations addressing all people's human rights. And one of the decisive objectives that we can work towards in the European Parliament and in the European Commission is a new anti-discriminatory directive that I will be working on, and that I also will identify the gaps that are in already the existing legislation to make sure that everyone is included as much as possible. And like I already mentioned, we all know that there is Islamophobia, but we also see now that, for example, Muslim women are being targeted sometimes even more. And I think that is an example of how also the anti-discriminatory directive should be changed. So equality is one of the fundamental values on which the EU is founded, and it's reflected in the treaties that we have, which gave the EU the mandate and the responsibility to combat discrimination. And I believe we can take the experience of before, but also during the COVID-19 and after, to achieve legislation that reflects an inclusive society. But therefore, it does mean that we also need to be part of the institutions. We need to be part of politics to make sure that we are part of the decision-making process. And what has been so special about the Ramadan during this period is, I think, that it provides us a lot of reflection even more about how we are living with other people, and the obstacles that we are facing as society. And we should do our best to make this society better and also help people irrespective of faith, color, and ability. And I hope that when Europe returns to normality, I hope that we can work together on creating a better society. And I would like to invite you all to participate and think in that. And it's very important to be aware of the fact that you have the right to be here and to participate also in the European Parliament. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Samira, for those beautiful and encouraging words. Indeed, participation and standing together as one Europe is definitely key to making these changes. The next speakers I would like to introduce are Dorsaf Bendhiab, the chair of the European Forum of Muslim Women, and Dr. Sanja Bilic. Dorsaf has made a commitment in the local, national, and European NGOs' work since 1993, and she chaired several organizations. She is also the co-author of the Manifesto of Muslim Women and has been member of the organization's board since its launch in 2006. Dr. Sanja is the Operations and Policy Manager at the European Forum of Muslim Women. She holds a PhD in Gender Studies from the University of York. We are very proud to host both of them for this important occasion, and we thank the European Forum of Muslim Women for their long-term relationship with FEMYSO, which has been very fruitful from the very beginning. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
I think Dorsaf hasn't. You need to unmute yourself, Dorsaf.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Do you hear me now? I would first like to thank FEMYSO for this initiative, which especially during this period of lockdown gives us the chance to come together for a joyful event celebrating the end of Ramadan. I'm all the more happy that the value of sharing this celebration is fully realized by the participation of our parliamentarian and civil society actors. I would also like to congratulate our member association who were able to assist their members in this difficult period in partnership with local association. Our member organization provided assistance to families and psychological support to women who were affected by these times. As an organization that concentrates on Muslim women's needs and intersectional discrimination they face in their respective societies, we observed that women have been fighting several fights at the same time, being especially affected by the Europe-wide lockdowns, taking care of their families' needs, monitoring children's studies online, managing their own professional work, and carrying out household chores. More than before, women need peer support and psychological assistance to manage and face these tribulations, balancing their physical and mental health, spirituality, and civic participations. In this blessed month of Ramadan, which for Muslim means adapting to new kinds of practice, both on the community and individual levels, we came nevertheless once again to realize how important it is to emphasize our spiritual values of sharing in richness and food, supporting each other, generosity, and giving, helping in those in need. These are values of importance for our civic identities that contribute towards an inclusive Europe as we together take care of all our fellow citizens despite their backgrounds. I am particularly proud to have observed during this period the active citizenship of European Muslims who actively participated as association or organization, most communities, or simply as individuals in solidarity with everyone else to fight the pandemic. For the European Forum of Muslim Women, this means that we are looking forward to all European citizens being united against discrimination and racism of all kinds, poverty and hate crime, which especially in the upcoming months and year, with the economic crisis that we will be facing in Europe, will form an imperative for us as an organization to fight against. What I wish, finally, for the times ahead, as we are looking forward to overcome the consequences of the pandemic, is an increased understanding that shared problems mean shared responsibilities. Together and united, we are stronger. Thank you very much.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you ever so much for organizing and doing this event. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Eid Mubarak, and this Eid is uniquely virtual and online Eid, which I don't think it's been like this ever. And I don't know, I hope it's going to be different for the next one, inshallah. I hope that even in the present challenging circumstances, you were able to have a joyous Eid. And I hope that Eid brought happiness in your hearts and homes. I hope it brought care and solidarity to those who are struggling and going through difficult times. This Eid means Festival of Breaking Fast, and it commemorates the end of Ramadan, as everyone has mentioned already, the month of fasting, the month in which those who observe it seek to establish the balance between the spiritual and material selves, by abstaining from food and drink, by balancing needs of our bodies and souls. Ramadan leading to Eid is an opportunity to become better in every sense and share the positive outcomes with our families, communities, and wider world. So Ramadan is a month of encouraging hope, love, solidarity, resilience, and patience, all of which are particularly valuable during the present times. Whilst COVID has escalated the existing discriminations in European societies, we have also witnessed many instances of compassion and solidarity between communities that Dorsaf has also mentioned before. For example, our member organization from Germany has mentioned how some churches were made available for Muslims to pray. In Ireland, Muslim communities took lead in food distribution to those who were self-isolating. We also have our organizations who quickly change their work patterns to online completely within a week. So there's a great examples of resilience, community spirit, solidarity, and working together. Our Italian members talked about humanitarian efforts of Muslim communities, and particularly Muslim women during Ramadan lockdown, how they helped financially, donating money to the hospitals, to mosques, preparing the food packs for everyone around them. These and many other activities have managed to dilute and silence the far-right voices that were gaining prominence, much online and offline. However, not all stories were positive. We heard that Muslim communities in Spain struggling with racial profiling. There is a lack of support and even complete lack of burial places, for example, in Madrid, for Muslims who deceased from COVID. There was also increased level of online speech, particularly aimed at Muslim women in Spain. So there are good examples and plenty of good examples within and beyond the EU. And we hope that the contributions will be a positive reminder and drive that we need to continue working together as a communities. With us as a forum of Muslim women in Europe, we want to see Muslim women in Europe as equal citizens. The celebration like this one demonstrated diversity and equality of all European citizens, and the events like this one, even though it's online, celebrate diversity and understanding that this diversity is what makes Europe stronger. The power indeed lies in solidarity and people coming together. And I hope that we can recommit ourselves to a common cause of spreading peace, understanding and inclusion for all people, regardless of our differences. I hope that we can be truly inclusive within and beyond our communities and support and celebrate the plurality of voices and views. We hope that with this example I mentioned of the women belonging to our forum, we can inspire and help all women and fight and challenge negative stereotypes that Muslim women are so familiar with. I thank you very much for this opportunity. And again, I wish everyone Eid Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanja and Dorsaf, for sharing those important messages and for the work that you do Europe-wide. I would like to now call on Brando Benifei. Brando, a member of the European Parliament, is an Italian politician of the Democratic Party in Italy. He's the head of the delegation of the Italian S&D MEPs and has served as MEP since 2015. In 2018, he received the MEP award for his work on employment and social affairs issues, especially for his work on youth unemployment. Sorry. Brando, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy I can be here today. We had already, it seems yesterday, but it was 2 years ago that with FEMYSO I participated in a not virtual Eid Day in Strasbourg during the the European Youth event. And this time I'm here for this virtual moment together. I have to apologize already that I will deliver like some reflections, some points, but I will need to go after it. This time I'm really in a hurry because we are working very hard in these days and in these hours, in these minutes, in fact, for what will be presented tomorrow at European level. Tomorrow we will see the recovery plan that will be presented by the European Commission to support the recovery of our societies and states in the whole of Europe, in the European Union and beyond. We are working on that very hard as parliamentarians. We are having negotiations and discussions now, but I think that any of our efforts, of our work, of our trying to make Europe better, more united, more cohesive, more open to our diversities, it will not be successful, will not be delivering, even in this very peculiar moment we are living in, very special for very complicated and often terrible reasons, if we don't have a healthy, strong, and organized civil society. Also, organizations that are based on young people engagement and on a religious identity. I think it's very important that we have a large diversity in Europe, being our really our added value. Our motto as the European Union was formed is unity in diversity. And so I think this is really the founding point for us. And it's very important that the not just the institutions work for putting our cultural richness into serving a common good, but also civil society is organized, is helped to be organized in a good way, because in some European countries we see problems, limits, issues that are conflicting, and we need to be careful to overcome these problematics. And we also need to actually support, because if I look at the experience, for example, of FEMYSO, that I know a bit, I think it's important to underline the efforts to involve young people in dealing with societal issues, in dealing with their own problems in society, how to tackle them, how to overcome them, and also how to present our cultural diversity to the rest of society. I think this is a very important activity where there is a need for more support from institutions. We need to be very careful now that we are in this very difficult moment, that we risk that for the urgencies that we are dealing with, we might undervalue the importance of cultural exchange, of meeting, of people, of facilitating dialogue, something that is, I mentioned the I event, the European Youth event. That's one of the many things that are there to, in fact, foster dialogue and an encounter, in this case, between young people from different corners and backgrounds in Europe. I think that we need to support this even more, not to backtrack, because the risk of backtracking, of a silent backtracking, is there. Because we will hear people saying, there is social distancing, people cannot meet, it will be more difficult, so we should not do exchanges. And this is a way that, I mean, is based on some rational thoughts. Obviously, now we have more. We are doing this virtually and not in person for a reason. But although there is some content and some seriousness on that, there is the risk of manipulating these concepts to pursue an agenda of reducing democratic spaces, democratic exchanges, encounter of different cultures. So I think that we need to be very attentive from the parliament side, European and national, and the civil society should help us in supporting this kind of attitude. We need to exchange, to enlarge our opportunities, especially if I look at younger people. As was already said earlier, I worked a lot on young people issues, on their problematics, on their needs, and young people need to be helped to be really those who build the society of the future. And so to do that, they need to be supported in their efforts to know each other, to build connections, to build creativity, ideas, exchanges. So from my side, I thought this could be the most significant contribution. Obviously, I want to underline also as a final point the need to concentrate on more solidarity in the response that we are building from the European side. And this means also more solidarity for all the different vulnerable groups. For sure, religious minorities are a vulnerable group. Young people are a vulnerable group. Young people from some ethnic and religious backgrounds are more and more a vulnerable group in this specific moment. And this is not an approach that must deal. Should lead to the idea of abandoning the way of empowerment, of consciousness. As I said earlier, I really believe on autonomy, on capacity of building future by the young people by themselves. All of this is valid, obviously, but then we also need to have the right instruments so that we avoid that, especially younger people, that after a crisis of 9 years ago, 8 of economic crisis that took place in many countries in Europe, and already damaged the future of a younger generation that at the time maybe was completing studies or starting to work. Now, after 8 years, they are facing the same. And they call it a permanent scarring effect on this generation, that at an early stage of their life, they might have experienced in a short time a lot of economic shocks, compressing their opportunities, and this is a very big issue for everyone, and especially for the most vulnerable. So I think this must be, the background for us on some things to take into account when we work in these days to ameliorate our response to the crisis from the European side. And so thank you very much for giving me this occasion to deliver some reflections, some points coming from my experience of these days, and also believing really that it's only civil society that organizes itself, younger people, people that represent the cultural diversity that we have in Europe, can be really the springboard, the important fundamental push for our recovery. That is not only economic, but it must be also social, it's democratic, it's cultural. It will be not easy. It will not be easy after these difficult months, but we will work together on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brando, for those encouraging words. The continuous support that you give for youth across Europe is really appreciated. Thank you very much. And your point on spaces is also very crucial, because we need these spaces to facilitate these dialogues, and it's continuously needed to make these exchanges possible. So thank you for that point. Next, we would like to invite Hajib El Hajaji. Hajib is currently Vice President of the Collectif Against Islamophobia in Belgium, also known as CCIB. We are very happy to host him for this important occasion, and we thank him for helping to cultivate the strong relationship that we have between our two organizations. Hajib, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye. Ciao, Hajib. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to meet you. Then thank you very much. It's a very big pleasure for the Collectif Against Islamophobia in Belgium to participate for our first European Eid Virtual, organized by FEMYSO and with the ARDI group and the European Forum of Muslim Women. As you know, the CCIB promotes an inclusive society based on the respect and the spread of human rights principles. These principles are source for us of freedom, respect, intercultural dialogue, and society development. The mission of the CCIB is more than just denounce discrimination and hate speeches. Our motto, what gives us energy in our day-to-day life, is to build solutions with the citizens which face difficulties and discrimination, to place them in the heart of our European society as a citizen. This is really important for us as a European citizen and as a European Muslim citizens. What we need to reach this goal is to share wonderful experiences of resolution of conflict and other success stories which motivate people to go out of sadness and loneliness, to contact us and to believe in our capacity to solve their own problems. First, by mediation. And you know that we have a lot of experience based in our partnership with the equality bodies and the European institution, sometimes by the reminder of the law, and sometimes at least by a court justice action. We work hard now in Belgium to build, with the biggest coalition we have of NGOs, a national action plan against racism, with the support of the European Network Against Racism, as you know, INAR. This year, we live a special fasting month during Ramadan, caused to the lockdown and the COVID-19 pandemic. I was very happy to see the responsibility of the Muslim communities to share strong solidarity activities and to make efforts during this special month with the social contact and community activities were very, very important. In Belgium, the actual Prime Minister, Sophie Wilmès, for the first time, wished officially a happy Eid for all the, in a national level. Several years ago, the King of Belgium shared a meal with a Muslim family to show to all Belgian citizens that Muslims are part of our society, of their own society too. Then Muslim communities are the part of the society, and we found them in first-line assistance with the support of victims of coronavirus. They celebrate the fundamental European values, solidarity, hospitality, respect, and tolerance. Those two examples show that strong initiative from the highest level exist and deconstruct misconception about Muslim communities. I would like to close my speech to show that a better future is possible for all the citizens in the European countries, and that beyond the hardships, we found a fantastic mobilization for others. Then Eid Mubarak Saeed, happy Eid for all of you. Stay safe and take care of all of your family and close friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hajib, and same to you. Next, I am happy to call on Ioannis Dimitrakopoulos. He is the scientific advisor at the European Fundamental Rights Agency. He's a social scientist who conducted multiple national and transnational EU-funded research projects on a range of human rights issues, from discrimination, racism, anti-Semitism, Roma, and the rights of children. He started his work for the agency in 2003 and since has been responsible for many of its major reports. Ioannis.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation to this meeting. We live indeed in strange times, and we have witnessed people reacting with fear, but also with resilience and solidarity in the face of an unprecedented situation. I will take advantage of your invitation to speak a bit broader about how the situation develops from a human rights point of view. Now, viruses do not discriminate. They can infect anyone. But people do discriminate. This can influence who is infected, how they're treated, how they are affected by lockdown measures, and how they will experience the aftermath of this pandemic. At the Fundamental Rights Agency, we are following closely developments across the EU with our research teams in every member state, noting down human rights implications of the pandemic and the various state responses. We publish this evidence in our bulletins that we issue every month. The first one we issued last month, and the second one is coming up very soon. What we observe is that in general, those less privileged faced most of the problems. For instance, those in short-term precarious jobs are more likely to be laid off, relying on state support, which in many countries is not adequate. Single-parent families struggle to balance distant working, homeschooling. At the same time, staying at home, as other speakers already noted, increases the potential of domestic violence, with women primarily as victims. We also see that particular minority groups experience serious challenges. For example, Roma. In many places in Europe, they're even blamed for the spread of the virus. Those living in marginalized and segregated settlements often have no access to running water and cannot follow hygienic measures. Another example are migrants or asylum seekers, especially those who arrived recently, and many of whom are Muslims. They're hard hit by measures such as closed borders, inability to apply for asylum in many locations, and in some cases reported pushbacks. And those in closed reception facilities face additional challenges. But across religion, across ethnic origin, it is people who are older, it is people with disabilities, who are less well off, who are in institutional care that face a range of problems, including higher infection rates. The pandemic triggered also an increase in racist incidents, especially at the start against those perceived to be Chinese or Asians, who also reported discrimination in accessing services, including healthcare services and education. Now, to keep my contribution short and looking to the future, it seems that we're not very far from new challenges emerging. The massive state investment that we see now, which allows us to survive the pandemic, could eventually slow down the economy considerably in the coming months, and we should prepare for consequences which could include rising inequalities and discrimination. We must therefore be vigilant in safeguarding our fundamental rights, the cornerstone of the European Union, which, we should not forget, are embedded into law. Non-discrimination and equality are not simply policy goals, they are legal entitlements and legal duties, and we must all insist on them in that frame. Moreover, though political leaders need to make strong public statements that reject myths and call for real solidarity across our societies, they also need to act. It is now the time to consider measures that cut across state boundaries and breathe life into the pillar of social rights, which our leaders proclaimed back in December 2017. A social rights pillar that cuts across religions, that cuts across ethnic origins, that calls for measures to prevent, for example, precarious employment, to ensure fair wages, to provide a high level of protection of health and safety at work, to protect children from poverty, to provide those in need with access to social housing or housing assistance, and everyone lacking sufficient resources with an adequate minimum income benefit to ensure a life of dignity at all stages of life. At this stage, and wishing everyone Eid Mubarak, I would like to close by wishing that our politicians would take urgent action to move ahead and take the necessary steps to ensure that life after the pandemic continues as it should. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ioannis, on raising those important points. Indeed, even though the virus does not discriminate, many are in way more vulnerable positions and prone to it. So very important points, something we should all remember. Thank you very much. I would like to now call on Isabella Mihalake to share her message on behalf of the European Roma Grassroots Organization Network. Isabella is currently the Senior Advocacy Officer at ERGO. She's a human rights activist with extensive experience in protection, promotion, and advocacy of Roma rights. Prior to this role, she worked at ENAR, which is the European Network Against Racism. This is a special session for us as an organization, as we see our struggles lined to that of those around us and the advocacy work that ERGO does on behalf of Roma communities all over Europe. Welcome, Isabella.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for this presentation. I think it's great to have this opportunity to cooperate and to hopefully start to work even closer than before. I'm very happy to attend this Eid celebration marking the end of the Ramadan and address the Muslim youth across Europe. But I also want to apologize or send the apologies of my director, Gabriela Hrabanova, who was invited initially to speak, but who had to cancel today due to technical problems in the Czech Republic, asking me to speak on behalf of ERGO Network. And it's really with immense pleasure that I do that. Having in mind that I have worked before with FEMYSO under the coalition against Islamophobia. So thank you very much again. What I wanted, and probably speakers before me have already mentioned this, that, and we are aware that this year Muslims around the world observe the holy month of Ramadan under the lockdown and tight restrictions due to coronavirus outbreak. and that with strict curfews and physical distancing measures, many of Ramadan's rituals and traditions have been restricted. Mosques have been temporarily closed, and gatherings had to be done many times online. In time of the pandemic and insecurity, Muslims have become convenient scapegoats, and this is something that the United States Secretary General Antonio Guterres said recently in a forum to tackle the recent rise in discrimination against Muslims. Data is still emerging as we see on the disproportionate impact that the COVID-19 has on racialized minorities across Europe. No matter if we speak here about Muslims, if we speak about Roma, if we speak about LGBTI groups, if we speak about particular groups of women and so on, we see that there is a huge disproportionate impact on these communities, both when it comes to access to education, when it comes to access to employment, healthcare, but also the way humanitarian assistance has reached them, but also when it comes to the way we have been scapegoated for allegedly spreading the virus, and Muslims have also been allegedly accused for allegedly spreading the virus alongside with Jews, Chinese migrants, Roma, and so on. The pandemic brought to light decades and centuries of structural and systematic discrimination and institutional racism against racial and ethnic minorities. But it has also brought the undeniable truth that life on this planet is important, and that we can only survive if we practice our humanity and show understanding, kindness, and solidarity with each other, no matter of our skin color, religion, faith, ethnic or minority background. So today, really on this symbolic celebration, I invite all of us to commit to each other that we will be better people, that we be kinder and more compassionate. I think we all need each other to continue to live life as we once used to know. And for those that are working on defending the rights of minorities or of groups that we are representing here, I invite you all to work in solidarity across movements. And I'm happy again for this invitation to work closer together and try and also exchange good practices or experiences that our communities are experiencing across Europe. And I think we have so much more work ahead of us when it comes to even governments recognizing these specific forms of racism that we experience in our countries, whether we speak about anti-Gypsyism, whether we speak about Islamophobia, whether we speak about Afrophobia, anti-Semitism, and so on. So working together, it's really key now for not just fighting the pandemic or mitigating the consequences, but really for being able to claim our rights and being able to protect our communities from violence and from racism. I'm really sorry that we couldn't and we were not able to celebrate this day face to face and meet each other because of these conditions. But I really want to wish all of us like a blessed day and good health, safety and security, because this is very important for us and for our families, and hopefully a better prospect for a better life and happier in the future. So today my address is really for humanity, solidarity amongst each other, without really looking at what makes us different, but looking at what makes us common, similar, and one. So thank you again very much. I'm happy to stay here as long as you will have me, and I commit on behalf of Ergo that we are really willing to cooperate closer with you, with FEMYSO, and with other partners in order to really protect human rights of our communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isabella, for your beautiful message. And indeed, we should always look at what unites us rather than what divides us. So that was very beautiful. And hopefully we do get to celebrate next time together in person. The next person I would like to invite onto the screen is Hania Chalal. Hania is the president of the Muslim Students of France, and she will be talking about some of their most recent activities within the organization and the work that they do with youth across France. Hania. Hania, please unmute yourself if you are on mute.
Thank you for having me. Sorry for the... Anyway, so yeah, as you introduced me, AMF is a member organization of FEMYSO. So some know or not, we have 26 sections in all major student cities. And we hold cultural events, social support, and we try to invest the university representation. And usually at this time of the year, during Ramadan, we hold community iftars, which are open to all students. I think Brando has mentioned it earlier. He talked about one of the iftars he went to. So this year was a particular context, and in order to try to give it a sense of sharing and try to keep the work that we usually do, we had this campaign which was called Deliver Iftar. So basically our aim was to help and support students that were isolated in residencies and try to help them with food packages or meals that were delivered to any student that was calling us or asking for it. So basically, the last numbers that we have, we managed to get more than 5,000 food packages and more than 8,500 meals that were distributed across the country. So thankfully we can say that we try to have a good grassroots work and try to provide for students. But sometimes we experiment as a Muslim oriented organization, some issues, some problems with the Islamophobia, which in all major countries it is mainly institutional, and the advocacy against Islamophobia could really help us intensify our work in locally but also nationally. So yeah, so supporting us and trying to help us would be, I think, going through advocating against Islamophobia, which FEMYSO is already doing, and we really thank the team for the work that they are doing. But I think this is an issue that we need to raise and focus on for the next years or maybe month, if closer. So I think, yeah, I think this is my wish for this aid would be that we would intensify the work about Islamophobia to make sure that other organizations like us, and to help us obviously to intensify our work locally but also nationally, yeah, and help us be more impactful in the near future, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Hania. That was really great to hear the breadth of activities that you guys are doing. Next, I would like to invite Omar AbdelFattah. Omar is the president of the Muslim Student Society of Poland. So Omar will be sharing with us his message as well as touch on some of their recent work. Omar, please start.
Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلوات الله على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and Eid Mubarak to all of you. So first of all, I would like to thank you so much for inviting me, and as always giving us a platform to speak about our experiences, about our concerns, about everything we would like to share with others. And as always, it is flattering for me to be surrounded or be amongst people who are far better than me, and people who are an absolute rock stars of European activism, spiritual activism. So it always feels humbling to be around people or be somewhere with people who are somehow associated with FEMYSO. And it's always something to be, for me to be proud of, to be actually part of this big, beautiful family. So what I wanted to tell about, maybe I will start with a brief outlook on what our organization is, because our organization, Muslim Student Association Poland, it was actually established 30 years ago, at the beginning of 90s. And it was the first actually organized Muslim or Islamic organization in Poland that was inclusive towards Muslims of every ethnic background. So there were before Muslims in Poland, they were there for centuries, Polish Tatars, and but their organization was like orientated towards people of their ethnicity. So our organization was the first one to actually be inclusive for everyone. And this organization was like a foundation for all the other organizations that appeared later on, such as Muslim League in Poland or Muslim Foundation for Health. And Alhamdulillah, it's a proud thing to be part of this organization that actually started the let's say the Islamic activism here in Poland. Let's say, but of course we know that, or maybe some of you do not know, that for some time, because of the transition between generations, our organization has been in different situations. It's been in a state of, let's say, stagnation. It's been in a state of coma, let's say, for some time. We're still trying to, but we're also trying to wake it up. And with help of FEMYSO, I think we are making small steps and a bit of progress, alhamdulillah. So our main objectives as an organization and our actions are basically revolving around, I would say, I outlined here 4 points, and the first one is basically to unite the youth here in Poland, Muslim youth, and give them sense of belonging, because this is something that is extremely important in our view, to give all those young people who are either born here as Muslims or came here later on to study or to work, to give them this sense of belonging, and that they are actually part of the society, that they are part of the community. Because we all know that this sense of being somehow disconnected from society and being disconnected from local community poses a threat to everyone. It poses a threat to people who are disconnected, and it poses a threat to people who can potentially be somehow hurt by people who are basically being marginalized. So this is something that we want to avoid. The other thing is to basically establish our activism here in Poland as something that is not a foreign effort to establish something in Poland, because we as Muslims here, we feel proud to be Europeans. We feel proud to be Polish, and this is something that we are sure about. This is something that we are not afraid to tell about. We are Europeans, we are Polish, and we are Muslims, and this is something that does not has to be like, we do not have to compromise our being European or Polish, and at the same time being Muslims. So this is one of our objectives, to actually be there and prove to everyone that we are as part of society as any other religious group, as any other ethnical group. So this is the second one. The third thing is basically that we try to involve youth on a local level whenever we are organizing something in our Islamic centers, whenever we are organizing something with other organizations, we try to make youth involved. So, for example, we are trying to involve in all sort of cultural activities on a local level in different cities. We all during the lockdown, Muslim Foundation for Help, actually there have been there have been like people from our organization, people from youth here, Muslim youth in Poland, that help to distribute food and help packages for people who are in need. Many of those people who are in need were actually students who all of a sudden lost their income, or people in difficult situation as well. So there have been people donating. Also, we take pride in the fact that during the lockdown, we were trying to help FEMYSO also raise funds for their activities, because we all know that when FEMYSO is strong, we are strong as well. And also the other thing that we are also trying to do as an organization, and which is very crucial, especially in during this very fragile times, I would say, is that actually we're trying to raise awareness amongst youth and even the previous generations, that we try to raise awareness about the importance of being an active citizen. So we've tried our best during European elections to actually encourage people to go out and vote, to feel that their vote actually matters and has a real impact on our daily lives. And this is something that we are still, and we will inshallah try to do right now, especially right now, because whenever we are talking about the lockdown, about the coronavirus outbreak, it came in a package with different challenges, and one of these challenges is actually I would say the rise of far right in many different countries, because unfortunately people are looking for solutions. They might feel betrayed in some countries, as it also happens to be to some extent here in Poland. People may feel to some extent betrayed by current politicians, and they try to look for solutions. And of course, far right gives some let's say radical solutions, radical explanations to things, to make everything look as if it was basically black and white. So our challenge here is to basically show people and show youth, show even the previous generations, that we have to be active more than ever, because people who are actively working against diverse and cohesive Europe and vibrant Europe, they are active, and it is our challenge, and it is up to us to be active as well, to make a sort of a balance between us and them, and to show people that there are better ways to deal with this new reality, to deal with the upcoming problems and challenges. So all of this, all of the impact of our work, and I don't want to delude anyone. Like we can do much more, and we've been and we could have done much more by this time. But the reality is that the importance of our work is both on personal level, so people should feel better because of our actions. They should feel included. They should feel part of community. They should feel that they can be better and better during while working with us and being involved in our activities. But also on national and European level, we should also feel that whatever we are doing brings a great benefit for all of us, for us as Muslim youth, for Muslims in general, for our fellow citizens, for all Europeans. And this is everything that we are aiming for. And we are also aiming to have this great balance that FEMYSO has in its way of working, this great balance between spirituality and working also on the ground. So thank you so much again for everything you've done for us, for giving us a platform to talk again. And I wish you all everyone success and the best outcomes of this challenging times, but inshallah also very fruitful for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Omar, and same to you as well. Some very, very important points raised. And as the other speakers said as well, being active and participation are all very crucial actions. And as it is one of FEMYSO's core pillars as well, active citizenship is what we aim to do in training and boosting European youth. So thank you, Omar. And last but not least, I have the pleasure to call upon Abdelrahman Rizk. He is the current president of FEMYSO, who will be sharing his message along with some closing remarks. Thank you very much from me for being with us. And over to Abdelrahman.
Right. Thank you very much, Farha, for the great hosting of this session. And I would like to start by wishing a very happy Eid and Eid Mubarak to all those celebrating across Europe and across the globe as well. And I'm really glad that we managed to pull off this virtual reception despite the physical restrictions and travel restrictions, for us to share this message of solidarity together and hearing from different speakers. The message of solidarity and the great work that they've been doing across the whole so far in the pandemic situation. It has been definitely a very difficult and different circumstances of us observing Ramadan and also celebrating Eid with this COVID-19 outbreak. We're all spending it at home. We're not allowed to go into gatherings and so on. And it's been, let's say, great and heartwarming and not surprising for us to see the Muslim community showing responsibility to the wider society, showing responsibility by sticking to the guidelines, by sticking to the restrictions, but also by stepping up to support the wider society by different initiatives. And we heard, for example, from FEM, the work that they've been doing, from CCIB, from our member organizations. And also FEMYSO has been one of the organizations that stepped up quite early from March to launch a campaign online called Outbreak of Generosity, where this campaign was to encourage and motivate young people to become proactive in this situation by supporting the vulnerable and maybe elders in their community by distributing food banks, by supporting, by delivering essential items and so on and so forth. So I think those are things that we need to stand by and actually congratulate those civil society organizations and young people in our communities, and also our member organizations. I mean, I've been following the work of member organizations, and for example, EMF here, the work that they've been doing by distributing food in, I think, maybe more than 10 cities across France. So I think thousands of meals before and during the month of Ramadan, and I think they will continue as well distributing those meals to those in need. And other organizations, I can speak all the way to North Macedonia. They've been doing something very similar as well, delivering food parcels to places where people are much in need. So yeah, I would like to finish off by thanking our guests, our esteemed guests, starting by our member of European Parliament, Brando Benifei, and also member of European Parliament, Samira Rafaela, and she's also the co-president of ARDI, which is the Anti-Racism and Diversity Intergroup in the European Parliament. And I think this is also a good opportunity for me to commend the hard work of ARDI and specifically the coordinator of ARDI, Jelena Ivanovic, for working tirelessly and very hard to stand up for against all the forms of racism, discrimination, and working, together with civil society organizations and MEPs to try and influence and change policies accordingly. Also thank Mr. Ioannis Dimitrakopoulos from the Fundamental Rights Agency for joining us. And also I think, there's a lot of scope, for us as FEMYSO and also other civil society organizations, both on a local and European level, to work together, especially when it comes to Islamophobia and the situation there. And also our partner organizations that have joined us here, maybe with IRGO, and we have Isabella, sharing her message, and also, the work that they're doing with the Roma community and the wider society in Europe is something that's really inspiring for us as FEMYSO to look at it and also work closely with this organization. And also our co-hosts, EFOM, the European Forum of Muslim Women. And we have here Dorsaf and Sanja, and they stuck with us all the way until the end. And also CCIB as well, Hajib, which he shared, very strong message about, the work that has to be done and the work that's being done on the local level. And last but not least, our member organizations, the heart of FEMYSO, the foundation of FEMYSO, which were represented by Hania, the president of EMF, the Muslim Students of France, and also Omar, all the way from Poland, representing the Muslim Student Society in Poland. It's been great having all of you, and it's been great to, I think, also thank the people that have been watching this live, and also the ones that are going to be watching the session after. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Eid Mubarak once again. Have a blessed week and stay safe, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you.